wrangling razor-toothed barracuda.
Oh, Kaku!
Battling armor-mouthed gar.
It's like being trapped in an Iron Maiden.
Tagging great whites with flesh-shredding jaws. And an Amazon expedition comes face-to-face with the ultimate fanged fighters.
Ow! Check that out. Magnificent fish. Monster teeth. Unbelievable.
They're big vampire fish with big teeth. For science, sport, and food. It's the most extreme encounters in our eternal quest for hooked monster fish. In the world of whoppers, some take a bite out of the competition. Many species can kill, but only a few have mouths full of deadly weapons. They decimate prey with cleavers, pincers, and daggers. What are these big-toothed predators? And how are they fighting to survive? When anglers and adventurers take them on, it's the ultimate battles of man versus fanged fish. January 14th, 2009, Brazil. Ichthyologist and fish tooth and jaw specialist Dr. Justin Grubich is on an expedition, flying into the heart of the Amazon basin. For big fish teeth, this is ground zero, home to the petrifying piranha cousin, the pacu, a shocking species with human-like teeth, and the notorious payara, called the vampire fish. As an experienced fisheries biologist, Justin wants to gather tooth and bite impressions from live specimens in their native habitat, providing evidence about how these fanged hunters survive and adapt to a changing food chain.
The biggest threats to the Amazon nowadays are population increases, deforestation, habitat depletion, as well as hydroelectric that actually can change the way the river flows.
Targeting the first leg of his jungle hunt, Justin sets his sights on the mysterious pacu, close relative to the piranha, with a terrifying feature. Their teeth look human. To catch pacu and other big-toothed fish, Justin's guide is expert angler and local celebrity Johnny Hoffman. After a lifetime fishing Amazonian waters, Johnny knows exactly where to hunt. But overfished pacu are growing scarce.
Here in the Amazon regions, the biggest threat to the pacu is commercial fishing. The fish is very expensive because the meat is so tender. Compared to other fish, it is much more valuable.
Justin casts his line. With no luck. Each time he thinks he's hooked a pacu, the fish's tough jaws break loose from the baited hooks below.
Ooh, it came off.
Pacu teeth can flatten hooks much larger fish can't bend.
That was a strong fish. We positively identified it as a pacu careña, a big one.
Justin makes one last attempt, casting his hook closer to the shallow bank.
As soon as it hit the bottom, it was a...
Justin struggles to hang on.
Jesus, like a runaway freight train. Popping its head, tugging at me. And then it goes off on these screaming runs like just then. But goodness, yeah, it's a strong fish. It's tiring me out, that's for sure.
With a forceful tug, the angler feels his fish start to lose strength, drawing closer and closer. It's his last chance to land it.
We're getting it close to the boat now. He's strong, he's heavy. Look at that bend in that rod. It's going right over. Oh! God! Woo! Oh.
The bucking fish is fighting hard. Gathering his energy, Justin gives a final forceful pull.
Big pacu caranha. Hey!
Good fishing.
Up close and personal with one of the strangest biting fish on Earth. Sticking his hands directly into the mouths of these river biters is only the beginning. The expedition's ultimate challenge has just begun. In the quest to study fierce fish bite mechanics, Justin and Johnny must soon plunge deeper into the Amazon jungle. But as their hunt intensifies, can they find an even more ferocious fanged fighter, known as the vampire fish? Thousands of kilometers away, anglers take on another fearsome big-toothed fish. African legend tells of a man-sized monster killing everything in its path, the Goliath tigerfish. Few fishermen dare to try to catch them. Even fewer succeed. Goliath tigerfish are native to the Congo. In this behemoth battleground, you either get big or get eaten. Ravenous, flesh-eating carnivores, Goliaths can grow to over 40 kilos. Yet little is known about these elusive fish. Some biologists speculate they get even bigger, 2 meters long, weighing 70 kilos. All thanks to teeth built to kill.
The jaws and teeth of the Goliath tigerfish indicate that it's obviously a piscivore, a big piscivorous fish. Those razor-sharp teeth in that jaw obviously can take big chunks out of big elusive prey.
Part of the order known as Coraciformes, the Goliath shares this family tree with the notorious piranha.
That was an ancient group of fishes that still exist today and have evolved over millions of years.
And like piranha on a massive scale, the Goliath tiger's menacing maw is built like a bear trap. In the competitive food chain of the Congo River, it's a design that's helped them snag and hold on to big prey. Even the bravest anglers find Goliaths fearsome opponents. But for one determined fisherman, the hunt for this legendary predator is an obsession.
It's the legend, it's the myth of the Congo River.
September 5th, 2008, Central Africa. For Czech Republic fisherman Jakub Wagner, a mission into the Republic of Congo carries thrills and danger. He's determined to snag a massive Goliath tigerfish.
Now I made a list of 23 species of the biggest freshwater giants, and I'm trying to catch them all around the globe.
With bait and tackle on board, Jakub and his guides push off into the current. They choose a spot in fast-moving water, known Goliath stomping and chomping ground. Defeating a Goliath takes a special strategy. Where other fish's soft facial flesh allows hooks to penetrate at the point of contact, with Goliaths, hooks repel off their bony mouths like armor plating. And if an angler does manage to hook one, razor-sharp jaws can rip through even the toughest fishing line.
Goliath tigerfish can cut through your leader.
Jakub knows his only chance is to lure the Goliath to bite firmly into triple-hooked bait, taking it deep into its mouth. And if Jakub hooks one, his best bet is to bring a Goliath in fast. But on the river, as hours turn into days, each time he snags his target,
It's off. Ah!
the line goes limp. Reeling it in, Jakub finds his bait chopped in half, hooks untouched.
It's extremely powerful killing machine.
As sun breaks through the gloom, he casts one more time. In a sudden jolt, the reel spins out of control.
Fish is on!
Bracing himself against the pull, the fight's even stronger than Jakub expected.
Go! Go, 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 go!
Scanning the murky waters, he can only imagine his opponent. Then, in a split second, he gets a glimpse.
Whoa!
It's huge. Landing hard, the Goliath darts away from the boat, pulling out fishing line in a burst. Jakub knows exactly what his catch is doing and where it's headed. Towards a fishing minefield. Jakub's perilously close to a tangle of floating weeds. Once a fish gets stuck in this impenetrable trap, an angler has no choice but to cut his line. Pulling against the racing Goliath hard as he can, Jakub fights panic. With hand-tearing tugs on the line, he steers the fish from the thick weeds. Free. Now, with the Goliath in open water, the fisherman uses the last of his strength to reel it in, while the Goliath tries to use its massive jaws to sever the line. After a back-breaking half-hour struggle, Jakub gets the fish alongside the boat. But with a big-toothed whopper like a Goliath, the real challenge is getting it on board.
I didn't want to lose the fish. It was my first Goliath tiger fish.
As the powerful fish bucks and darts, Jakub carefully grabs hold of his tail, hoisting the writhing whopper out of the water. At last, he's landed his Goliath. Up close, it's a monster, estimating the Goliath at over 25 kilos. Its terrifying spiked teeth look like a shark's. Jakub marvels at this legendary river beast. But like a growing number of passionate fishermen, he's determined to help sustain the species for future generations. Releasing the Titan safely back into the Congo, it's the catch of Jakub's career.
When I had my first Goliath tiger fish in my hands, I was the happiest man in the whole world.
Yet in the fight for the long-term survival of Goliath tigers and other fanged freshwater monsters, one major danger persists. A food chain threatened by overfishing. Ongoing environmental efforts are trying to help scientists and governments find alternate food sources for local communities, giving these big-toothed fish a fighting chance. In the worlds of big-toothed monsters, one hunter is unrivaled, the great white shark. Alpha predators armed with 50 serrated blades, their jaws inspire more fear and respect than any creature on Earth.
It's really an impressive thing to see a set of jaws that big with that many weapons involved. It shows that it's just an ultimate predator.
But how did this ultimate predator first evolve? Recent research suggests a truly lethal lineage. Before the great white, nearly 20 million years ago, its ancient relative may have been this jaw-dropping, super-sized killer. The megalodon, 3 times bigger than a great white shark. The megalodon had teeth to match its size. Seen here next to a great white shark tooth, with a maximum size potential of less than 8 centimeters, a single megalodon tooth stretched a staggering 18 centimeters from base to tip. Its nearly 3-meter jaws delivered over 18,000 kilos of flesh-ripping force, decimating everything it hunted.
A single megalodon tooth is so huge, it's almost like a serrated meat cleaver. You can just imagine the amount of bite force being transmitted through that tooth. Really impressive weapon.
As a specialist in fish teeth, Justin and other scientists hope to understand how such fierce fighters survive, evolve, or go extinct. One thing they do know, With these alpha predators, survival takes big meals, and it all starts with the bite. The bite of a great white shark is like an advancing army of destruction. And great whites are literally covered in teeth. Seen here, magnified 100 times, their scales, called dermal denticles, are built exactly like teeth. They're even coated with enamel, the toughest living substance, giving sharks a cutting suit of armor. For anglers, the great white's protected status and deadly reputation scares off even the bravest thrill seekers. But incredibly, a few are determined to tag them.
Oh, the teeth on the shark's got to be the scariest part. As soon as you see it, you just think death. They're not good looking teeth at all. You don't want to be caught inside that.
September 25th, 2005, East Coast, Australia. Adventurers Glenn Connell, David Smith, and Chris Macklin are out at their favorite fishing spot planning to catch grouper. But a recent influx of sharks changes their agenda.
Basically, we kept getting bitten off by sharks, so we thought we'd go down shark fishing.
It could be hammerhead or great whites. Yet rather than kill these threatened species, the anglers decide to tag them. Part of Australia's official research angler program, amateurs can obtain government fisheries tags, helping scientists across the country study migration and growth. But the program wasn't designed with man-eating sharks in mind. Warning, don't try this at home. Amateur tagging of great whites is now illegal. And to up the ante, these guys want to tag sharks like no one else, from shore, with a car. Unfortunately, getting bait out far enough is a challenge.
You could not throw a bait that big out past the breakers, and everything we tried was just unsuccessful.
Putting their heads together, the men come up with a deceptively simple plan. Surf the bait out.
Grab your surfboard, bro.
I gotta put Woody on.
Dave dons his wetsuit, grabs the bait, and heads out.
Should be fun.
First experience.
Every second, his life is in danger. Paddling out into known shark territory is beyond risky. From below, a surfer resembles a shark's favorite food, seals. Dave's best defensive strategy? Keeping his toes on the board.
Less things my body in the water, the less things I got to chew on.
Dropping the bait in deep water, Dave quickly turns to head back. Almost immediately, from shore, Chris feels something snatch the bait and take off.
It's a bit of size in this one, and Dave's still paddling out there.
Chris is alarmed. He fears the area is brimming with hungry sharks. Holding his breath, he scans the waters for signs of big fins or a deadly attack. Chris battles the hooked whopper while Dave paddles frantically back to shore. Incredibly, Dave makes it back intact.
Oh, Davey's back, he's safe.
But for Chris, the fight is on. Bearing down, he slowly inches his catch to shore. At any time, the shark could break free or pull Chris in after it.
If you get a shark with a bit of size in it, they decide to head to sea, well, there's just no way you're going to stop them.
It must be about 10 foot offshore.
Yet the men are prepared. They've rigged a custom-made fighting chair, built for a car. Glenn attaches the chair to the front of his Jeep as Chris climbs on for better leverage. Still, the massive beast isn't giving up. Chris's catch pulls so hard, he fears he's hooked more than he can handle. Wasting no time, Glenn jumps into the driver's seat to make chase.
Minimises a lot of stress on the animal because we're able to drive up the beach and just sort of stay with the animal and play it out rather than have a lot of line out and have to work the animal too much. Just keep him going steady, Dave.
Imagine battling a massive shark on rod and reel. Chris's upper body is nearly numb. With a painful final heave, he brings the shark closer to shore. The men are stunned.
What is it, a big hammerhead or no? No, she's wide, is it? Oh, look at the size of that.
To their astonishment, it's a giant great white shark, caught and still alive.
When we got it in, we realised it was a white pointer, and that sort of froze us on the beach for a minute. We didn't sort of know what to do.
Chris grabs his tagging equipment, but tagging a great white shark is terrifyingly unpredictable.
It's really, really exciting, but on the other hand, it's a bit scary as well. So you're not sure what the animal's going to do in any ways.
While the others hold the shark still, Dave carefully knocks the hook out of its mouth with a small hammer, and Chris manages to land the tag by the dorsal fin. The clock is ticking. To save the great white, they've got to get it back into the water without getting themselves killed. Chris and Glenn carefully begin to turn the fish. Handling a great white shark takes caution, avoiding any move that might anger the fish. The men give a final push. As it hits the water, the great white swims away. Tag and release. Mission accomplished.
As soon as you see it, you fall in love with it. You think it's probably one of the ultimate fish in the ocean. If you do get the chance to see one, you'll walk away a different person.
Among ferocious big-toothed fish, some are prehistoric predators. In murky waters, it strikes like a deadly dinosaur. With savage strength and a mouthful of spears, the alligator gar.
Hundreds of canine teeth pierce through the flesh of that prey item. It's not going anywhere after that. That fish is done for sure.
Alligator gar are truly ancient creatures. Fossil evidence shows the alligator gars changed little since the Cretaceous period, over 140 million years ago. The monster fish is a Darwinian superstar. Growing up to 3 meters long and reaching weights over 135 kilos, the alligator gar got its name from a long, broad snout and jutting dagger-like teeth. Yet incredibly, a secret set of even longer teeth grow inside its mouth. Attached to the center of the palate, they run the length of the jawbone, the last thing unlucky prey see before death.
It's like being trapped in an Iron Maiden. That fish is not getting out of there.
And the alligator gar is one of nature's most patient snipers. For hours, it rests motionless in slow-moving riverbeds, saving its energy for the attack.
So it rapidly opens its jaws, flicks its head really fast, like lightning to the side, and then clamps the jaws down on the prey item. A really unique strike in fishes, but also actually one of the fastest strikes that's ever been measured.
And there's more. Covered in a coat of armor-like scales, a strong roll of its body can fend off an attacker or cut through fishing line like a saw blade, an angler's worst nightmare.
Everything's sharp on an alligator gar. It usually will break your line if it wraps up.
February 25th, 2006, Love County, Oklahoma. Winter on the Red River is harsh. Fishermen who brave these icy waters are in for a bitter battle.
Not a lot of people can catch a 100-pound fish around Oklahoma.
Sean Chatham spent his life fishing Oklahoma's rivers. Now he wants to help save big-toothed fish, especially the elusive alligator gar. He and his buddies hope to land and tag healthy gar for Oklahoma State species tracking and conservation research. But on this frigid afternoon, after hours casting into freezing waters, the teams only managed to tag a few small specimens. Determined to tag a monster, Sean throws his line into the shallow part of the river. Suddenly, The fisherman feels his line catch on something below. He pulls back sharply as the hook sets.
I got one, guys. Good one? Yeah, it feels like a real good one.
Sean can barely keep the rod from flying out of his hands. And the boat's on the move.
Hang on, he's pulling the boat. We knew it was a really strong and big fish by just the way it took off. There was four of us guys, the boat, the motor, ice chest, all the tackle and stuff. So it was a good 1,000 pounds it was pulling across the water.
A seasoned pro, Sean's concerned.
All right, Sean, way to go. Get a good one. I ain't got him in the boat yet.
If it's a gar, he hopes the hook snagged on the fish's fin, not its mouth. Alligator gar teeth crush metal hooks like tinfoil.
Big low. Whoa. The bigger the fish it is, the tougher it gets.
Sean's now certain he's fighting the gar of his life.
Alligator gar?
But each time he pulls the fish close to the boat, a sudden surge sends the gar raging down the river. Sean's locked in a painful tug of war, praying he can outlast the muscular monster and tag it safely before it breaks free.
Yep, that's gator too. From the female.
After an exhausting 30-minute fight, the angler feels the gar begin to tire. Arms aching, he gives a forceful hoist, bringing the fish to the edge of the boat.
There he is, Scotty.
Looking down into the water, Sean was right. It's the biggest gar he's ever seen. But the real battle's just begun.
Good job, Scott.
The fish is so gargantuan, it's too big to lift. The weight could easily pull Sean and his buddies overboard into the snapping jaws of an angry alligator gar.
We knew it was a lot bigger when we seen it. We knew we couldn't quite get it into the boat.
Maneuvering the boat close to shore, Sean leaps onto the bank, pulling the fish up into the mud.
Pull it up, Sean, pull it. Sean, hold him.
The angler's face to face with some of the most frightening jaws he's ever wrestled. The slightest misstep could land Sean in the river, losing his catch or worse. Gar fishing injuries are notoriously bloody.
The mouth's sharp, the fins are sharp, even the scales on an alligator gar are sharp.
Sean's buddies jump in to help. Working together, they push the massive catch onto the bank.
Get it, got it. It's on the bank.
At last, after a fierce struggle of men versus mammoth gar, the gar gives in.
All right, good job. Good job, boys. All right, look at that one. Good one. I was excited. I think everybody in the boat was excited.
All right. Woo! All right. It's a heck of a fish.
At over 2 meters long and nearly a full meter around, the fish dwarfs the men and takes all hands to handle. The massive fish tips the scales at over 84 kilos, a new Oklahoma state record. Unfortunately, the tired gar didn't survive the catch. But Sean's tag and release efforts continue, hoping to help the conservation of an ancient biting species, now fighting for its future. January 14th, 2009. Back in the Amazon's Big Tooth Ground Zero, ichthyologist and tooth specialist Justin Grubich and his guide Johnny Hoffman have just hooked a powerful pacu.
Hey,
What fishing?
that is awesome.
A creepy-looking close relative of the piranha, the notorious pacu is a crushing machine. 2 solid rows of tightly packed teeth trap food in a vice grip. Thick jaw muscles generate kilos of force. Pacu are known as frugivores, fish that feed on fallen fruits and nuts. Yet make no mistake, pacu may not have a craving for carnage, but these teeth and jaws are built like pulverizing nutcrackers.
So these teeth create a lot of contact points, distributing force across these food items. And the jaw is perfectly designed to transmit a lot of bite force through those teeth. That creates huge pressures on each of those little mini chisels that allow them to break into those tough food items.
And zeroing in on its mouth, there's no mistaking why these teeth look so frighteningly familiar.
So Johnny, come help me hold this fish a second.
Here, a human skull model reveals the scary similarities.
So these jaws are actually built quite similar to ours. They have a fixed upper jaw like we do. Over the top here, it doesn't move at all, but they have this mobile lower jaw down here, and that's what generates all the bite force.
But Justin wants to know more.
I gotta make sure this fish doesn't bite my fingers off.
No two jaws are built exactly the same. To appreciate big-toothed fish, you have to measure how much power they're truly packing in their own unique bite.
So we're taking a dental imprint of the teeth here so we can get an estimate of the size of the teeth. That'll tell us basically how much force is being transmitted through those teeth, if we can get a good rudimentary shape of those teeth.
Capturing the exact shape, form, and wear and tear of teeth in a dental imprint reveals precisely how bite force impacts as it makes contact.
It can really transmit high bite forces into high bite pressures, and that's the point where the tooth actually pierces and impales into the prey item.
Back in the U.S., Justin hopes to analyze these fish bite impressions, recording data for future big tooth studies. Finally, Justin and Johnny move quickly to tag the fish.
147.
A lot of these fishers are losing habitat really quickly because of deforestation. This tagging effort helps us provide critical data on habitat usage and movement patterns.
After recording the tag number, they put the pacu back in the water.
Very strong fishing.
But Justin has another fish to find, the ultimate big-toothed monster, the vampire fish. One look at the vampire reveals a chilling resemblance to one of the most fascinating fanged killers of all time. 400 million years ago, no swimming prey could survive this behemoth beast, the Dunkleosteus. Stretching over 6 meters long, scientists estimate its jaws wielded an astounding 5,400 plus kilos of crushing force, twice that of a flesh-ravaging lion. Yet its most amazing feature was its teeth. One of the first creatures to carry a mouthful of jutting blades, its so-called teeth were actually an extension of its skull, sharpened to razor points. Today, though not a direct Dunkleosteus descendant, the legacy of these terrifying prehistoric teeth live on in astounding specimens like the vampire fish. But the vampire's an elusive target. With bad weather looming, the scientist fears his expedition may be running out of luck.
The sky's about to open up right now. Looks like we might get a little bit wet.
In a battle of man versus river killer, can they conquer the vampire in the midst of a raging rainforest storm? In a world of big-toothed whoppers, these are the speed demons. Turbocharged ambush predators, they tear into prey in a blur of destruction. So fierce, their name's synonymous with ruthless hunter, the Barracuda.
The actual strike of a barracuda can be completed in about 1/100th of a second. Super fast. The human eye only sees it about 30 hertz. So you can barely actually see it happen. That's how fast a barracuda is.
Natural-born killers from day one, Barracuda babies are on their own. Nurturing is not a natural instinct for their predatory parents. Young Barracuda form protective gangs. But once they're grown, it's every Barracuda for himself. Able to reach over 1.5 meters long, weighing over 45 kilos, a barracuda's biting jaws sport an assassin's array of teeth, each with a different deadly design. Piercing front teeth grasp and hold. Small, tightly packed upper teeth slice like a serrated blade, and larger bottom spears finish the job. Add powerful jaws, and it makes for a crisscrossing chomp with tremendous force. And to catch prey, Barracuda can swim like a torpedo, up to 58 kilometers an hour. For an angler, it all adds up to a fearsome, biting, fighting fish, almost too fast to catch.
The Barracuda is a real predator, long, fast, and just an exciting fish.
March 22nd, 1992, Maui, Hawaii. Fishing fanatic Dean Hayashi arrives at his favorite nighttime camp spot. He hopes to reel in a popular local jackfish, the giant trevally. But he has no idea an ominous ocean attacker is waiting to take him for the ride of his life. Dean sets up his fishing poles and attaches an alarm bell to each rod.
Well, those bells have to be huge, loud, to get us up from a deep sleep.
Passing the time, Dean prepares dinner, but nothing's biting. He gives up for the night, settling down to sleep. At the break of dawn, the clang of the bell sets the angler's heart racing. Leaping from his truck, his fishing line screams out. He's hooked something big.
On the initial strike, the drag went out, and you could hear it, the ratchet go zzz, zzz. Oh, that was exciting. And every fisherman just loves that sound.
Dean carefully picks his moment and jerks back on the rod. As he feels the hook set, the fish bursts out of the water. Dean is stunned. It's no trevally. It's a behemoth barracuda.
It explodes out of the water, and I couldn't believe it. It was so big, and I've never seen anything that big.
The fighting fish takes off, charging back and forth, repeatedly leaping in the air. Time is not on the fisherman's side. He's terrified the fish's scissor-like jaws will slice the line in two, even with a steel leader.
I kept thinking, please don't cut, please. Or my friends will never believe me.
And Dean has an even bigger fear. So close to shore, the line might snag on rough terrain. To keep it free, he needs better leverage from higher ground. Fishing from a rocky outcrop's extremely dangerous.
The rocks and the waves, and once in a while guys fall off and get hurt badly.
Reeling hard as he can, his upper body burning, Dean gets the fish closer to shore. It's even bigger than he imagined. He's overwhelmed, and there's no one around to help. Dean's losing his strength. He knows his only chance is to hold on and hope to catch a break from the perfect wave, bringing the fish to him.
I just waited. I was tired. The wave hit it and brought it up.
Wasting no time, Dean hauls up the line in a blur. But with a barracuda, keeping your distance can mean the difference between keeping and losing a finger.
I have a 6-foot leader, so of course I grab the leader. I'm not getting anywhere close to the teeth.
At last, with a final hoist, victory. He's got it. The mammoth catch measures 1.8 meters, weighing 35 kilos, a new Hawaii state record. To honor the fish's strength and spirit, Dean commissioned a traditional Japanese fish painting called a gyotaku.
I have that print on my wall at home. Something I won't forget, ever.
Fortunately, barracuda aren't on the endangered species list. Yet, despite their reputation as furious fighters, barracuda aren't invincible. Their biggest challenge? Growing up.
The juvenile phase of barracudas grow in estuary environments.
Wetland regions and river deltas known as estuaries are barracuda growing grounds. Widespread efforts must be made to preserve our wetlands, allowing juvenile barracuda to grow into big, biting adults. In the fight to protect big-toothed whoppers, scientists head to the front lines where they live, breed, and kill. Plunging deeper into the Amazon rainforest, ichthyologist Justin Grubich and his guide Johnny Hoffman have already tagged and imprinted the bizarre-looking teeth of a human-like pacu. January 18, 2009. As time for their mission's running out, Justin's determined to find a saber-toothed whopper named after a monster, the payara, the vampire fish.
It can open its mouth very wide, allowing it to eat prey almost half its own size. And that's why the payara's mouth is extremely dangerous.
Justin wants to gather vampire tooth impressions to help reveal how these hunters are adapting to a changing food chain and fighting to survive. The expedition comes to a secluded spot near the Mato Grosso border, Payara country. But dark clouds and thunder don't bode well. Payara like fast-moving water. Yet finding these tough fighters in water-churning bad weather is next to impossible. The payara earns its vampire nickname with a set of 2-inch daggers thrusting up from its bottom jaw.
And the advantage of those long fangs, as sharp is as they sweep that through the swift currents, it increases the chances that they're actually going to impale a prey item on those fangs.
Buffered with enamel, the hardest biological substance on Earth, these biting blades stay hidden inside pockets running the length of the payara's skull. A payara never draws its stabbing swords until it's about to draw blood. And from tail to tip, streamlined, pointy-headed payara are designed for maximum predator potential.
Payara is a narrow-shaped jaw because they need a narrow-shaped body to be able to move quickly through that really swift water environment. Yeah! It's muy bonito, Johnny.
Yes.
But now, as the team's caught in the middle of a raging storm with no payara, Johnny proposes a new plan, a secret fishing spot located 50 kilometers through dense jungle. The men head to base camp for a night's rest before facing their final and toughest test. January 19th, 2009. Fighting crushing heat and flesh-searing mosquitoes, the men hike through rugged terrain. At last, after a long journey upriver, the expedition reaches the edge of the Amazon jungle. Here, the river courses with killer rapids.
I'm no river guy, but it's got to be a class 3 or class 4 right there. And this is where the payara come up. They love this really swift, fast water.
Okay, no action. Walk in the forest. Very difficult.
Right now, they don't seem to be on, so we're going to actually move to a spot even farther upstream that's even more intense in terms of the amount of water that's flowing through here. Okay. Hey, watch. I'm out of breath, but I am driven by adrenaline. Johnny's taking me to this secret spot. We're gonna fish for the vampire fish, the giant payara.
Justin notices a man-made marker.
Here we have a survey marker for a potential dam project. The payara that we're going to be fishing for up here have traveled thousands of kilometers up this tributary to spawn in the headwaters. You put a dam project in there, and it could really impact the population.
Dams are responsible for 90% of Brazil's power supply. Some see hydroelectric power as one of the future's most promising renewable energy sources. Others disagree. The effect of a dam on the environment can be devastating. The group presses on through forbidding landscape to their final destination. The Sete-Caitas Rapids.
This is the spot, Johnny?
These turbocharged speeding waters are the fish equivalent of the Autobahn, a perfect vampire fish hunting zone. The men pull out their gear and cast. Payaras are active hunters. Luring one takes more than flinging food into the river. Justin uses Johnny's tried and tested technique. Casting upstream, he allows his bait to flow with the water. Then he jerks it back to mimic the quick-darting small fish Payara love to hunt. Justin feels a sudden strike. He acts fast to control the fishing rod, but as quickly as the fish attacks, the line goes slack. Reeling it in, Justin's bait is sliced in two.
Big fish.
Repeatedly, the bait falls victim to the slicing snipers underwater. Payara attacks so swiftly, they can easily rip away a meal before an angler can set his hook.
That's a hard fish to hook.
But before returning to the United States, Justin's determined to land a vampire Payara in the heart of the Amazon. He casts again further upstream. All at once, his line begins to vibrate. Justin moves quickly. This time, he's got it hooked.
All right, now we're talking.
Fighting against the currents, Justin keeps tension on the line. He knows at any moment, the darting fish could leap into the air, shaking the hook from its bony mouth. Muscling the fish closer to the rocks, Justin makes a scary discovery. The fish is now rushing towards him. If the line rubs against the rocks, it could snap.
Watch out, watch out, watch out, watch out.
Justin races to change position, almost tangling in Johnny's line.
Yes, yes, yes.
Watch out.
Then, with a final forceful pull, he's got his vampire fish.
Really exciting. This one's still alive. No, I don't want to get my hands too close to his mouth. He could impale my hand, go right through my hand with those sabers. Unbelievable. Magnificent fish. Monster teeth. Unbelievable.
The sheer length of the vampire's teeth is terrifying.
So this is why it's actually called the vampire fish. It has these two razor-sharp fangs, and I can feel they actually have edges on them. These edges are really important for me able to pierce into the prey items as they go after them with that huge strike, that jaw just flying through the water. Amazing. I've never seen anything like it. I've got to be really quick now to get the dental imprint because these fish don't last long out of the water. I got to be very careful he doesn't shake his head. We just got an imprint of the shape of the teeth. I can put this into a computer program and estimate the area of those teeth. That'll tell me how much bite pressure the jaw actually generates through the mechanism of the lower jaw. But really amazing fish.
Johnny moves fast to release the fish. After a moment of rest, the fighting vampire shoots back into the rushing rapids, ready to skewer its next meal.
Good fishing. Big ass fishing. Go fishing.
Unbelievable.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
Good fishing.
Justin and Johnny are hopeful such studies will help increase awareness about these fish, their feeding habits, and the importance of protecting big-toothed species around the world, paving the way for protective policies, helping declining fish populations rebound.
It was a real trial to get here, but it was so worth it. Finally caught big fish with the big teeth in just one of the most magical, pristine spots I've ever been in. Really mission accomplished. It's just awesome.
Big fish with big vampire teeth. Whether for adventure, study, or food, each incredible encounter brings us face to face with some of nature's most ferocious and fascinating creatures. And as we fight for their survival, we marvel at their power to devour with mouths built to kill. Hooked, monster fish, big teeth. Chasing a high-flying hunter in the Pacific, a mammoth mako shark.
Going away? Man.
Oh, dude, he's right there. He's chasing us.
Hang on.
Wrangling a silver king on the fly, a titanic leaping tarpon.
All right, are we ready?
Hitting a shark-infested reef to tag the ultimate underwater flying monster, a massive manta ray.
It's just like putting a very sharp knife into butter.
And a deadly showdown. A life-or-death clash of man versus black marlin, impaling a young angler's head.
Oh my God.
I didn't know if he was going to live.
In the name of science and sport, it's the most extreme encounters of man versus fish. On Hooked, Flying Monsters. Leaping out of our rivers and oceans, they're the ultimate deadly daredevils. To kill or fight for their own survival, these amazing aerial acrobats take to the skies. And on the hunt or on the run, when these phenomenal fish fly, they defy gravity. How do they become top guns? In astounding encounters face to face, we uncover the secrets of these flying whoppers.
When we look at the body of a fish, we see a body shape that is highly streamlined, in the same way that an airplane is streamlined. What is good in water is also very good for movement in air.
Add a lethal weapon to the daredevil design, and you've got airborne alpha predators. In some battles of man versus fearsome flying fish, a leaping beast can push the fight to the killer edge, taking human flesh, risking an angler's life. Peñas Bay, Panama, July 7th, 2005. Bob Schultz is an international sport fisherman, but this South American trip is special. His children, Stephen and Allison, are along for the ride.
This is lovely. Here's my dad taking the photo.
I wanted to get both of them down there to just spend 8 hours a day with me in a boat and not have any place else to go.
Say hello.
No phones, no cell phones, no TVs, just dad time.
Bob's hope is to pass along his passion for pulling in monster fish, especially one of the most coveted of all, black marlin, known in this fishing mecca as His Majesty.
They're powerful jumpers, leapers. They really put on a show.
Yeah, look at you. Are you going to stay in the chair?
Meet their target, black marlin. In an ocean battleground, these hunters attack prey with aeronautical speed and a brutal, jutting javelin.
They have that bill, and that bill is extremely sharp, and various billfish have actually been known to puncture the hulls of wooden boats.
Record-setting marlin stretch over 4 meters, weighing in at almost 700 kilos. Yet their super size doesn't slow them down. These cruising commandos hunt like radar-guided missiles, hitting speeds nearly 130 kilometers an hour. Pouncing on prey at the water's surface, behemoth body muscle and kinetic energy send them soaring straight out of the water.
So marlin can jump about 10 feet out of the water. And that's pretty remarkable when you consider the size of the animal. These are very big fish, and so to actually develop enough thrust to drive themselves out of the water to such a height is a fairly great accomplishment.
And once they're flying, marlin can keep going. Seen from the surface, these bounding beasts look like they're skimming along the ocean, a spectacle known as greyhounding. And above or below the water, the black marlin is always poised for an attack, with a little help from these. It's estimated black marlin bills can stretch nearly a full meter. Yet incredibly, their bills are actually upper jaws that jut out like flesh-stabbing swords.
It's actually its upper jaw that forms this large sword or bill on the front.
For someone who's trying to bring a marlin in, it's important to actually get a handle on that bill, to control that, keep it from flailing around and potentially being impaled by it.
For any angler, taking on a black marlin is a serious test of skill that can take a turn for the terrifying.
Marlin look like pure muscle. They're just really thickly built fish. They fight back. You can't almost hold on to the rod sometimes because they're so strong.
Now back in the boat, the Schultz family has no way of knowing their fishing trip is about to turn into a nightmare. Nearly 50 kilometers out to sea, the crew sets bait and casts into the ocean. Allison documents the trip on her video camera.
Oh, you getting some pictures?
Yeah, I'm getting all of it on video.
At first, no one's having any luck.
I ate the bait.
Then suddenly, Steven's rod starts singing. He's got something strong. Steven grabs hold and starts fighting. But as he struggles to keep control, the pull is intense, more powerful than anything he's ever felt.
I knew it was the biggest fish I had caught thus far in my life. Even catching sailfish wasn't like that. It was just pulling so differently and so hard.
In a flash, the fish makes a giant leap out of the water. It's a monster black marlin, soaring like a missile.
The first jump was awesome because I'd never seen a fish that big in real life. And I was kind of shocked and awed by it, and really intimidated by the size of it because I was afraid that that's what I was going to be reeling in.
And I saw the thing completely clear the water, and it was humongous.
Steven braces himself for an epic battle. Mammoth marlin will fight to the death.
You have to pace yourself to fight the fish for that long. I was ready to just, use every muscle in my body.
But after an exhausting 30 minutes, Steven's arms are burning with fatigue. Trying to stay focused, he has no idea what's going on underwater.
We hadn't seen the fish in 15 minutes, so we didn't know exactly where it was or how far away it was.
Feeling a sharp tug on the line, Steven senses the marlin is agitated below. He and Bob scan the water, anxious to see the beast's next move. In an instant, the fish bursts from the water, right next to the boat. Even as Steven fights to stay hooked, the family's thrilled to see His Majesty, the black marlin, up close. The incredible animal dives back down and once again takes a giant leap. But something's very wrong. In a sickening split second, it's clear the marlin is flying straight at Steven. Trapped moments from impact, time seems to stand still.
When the fish was coming in the boat, I realized that it was going to hit me, and I just didn't really give myself any time to react because I didn't think it was real.
I don't think it was an errant jump. They're apex predators. Nobody messes with them, This fish got messed with, and I think it just said, "We're gonna get you."
my God, oh my God.
The thrashing marlin's huge, an estimated 2.5 meters long and a whopping 270 kilos, big enough to do lethal damage to Stephen's head. It flies head-on, stabbing Stephen in the face with its bill.
I woke up on the deck of the boat and I was getting pulled into the corner, and the mates rushed over, cut the line.
As the crew cuts the line, Bob rushes to his son.
I didn't know if he was going to live. He was screaming in pain. I grabbed a towel and I shoved a towel on his face. And I honestly couldn't look at that point.
And the situation gets worse. The boat isn't equipped with emergency supplies. Trapped at sea, hours from civilization, Bob does his best to keep his son calm as the ship races back to shore. But with each passing second, Stephen Schultz is on borrowed time. Lacerated through the mouth by a 270-kilo flying black marlin, young angler Stephen Schultz fights for survival as his family races him miles back to shore. Back on land, Stephen's flown to a hospital in Panama City. All told, it's been 5 hours since the marlin strike, and Stephen's ordeal is far from over. X-rays reveal 4 broken facial bones. Deep lacerations cut through the angler's mouth and throat. And now there's an even deadlier risk: infection. Marlin bills are covered in bacteria. Stephen's doctors administer Cipro, an antibiotic so powerful it's used to fight anthrax.
The marlin's bill went in my mouth, hit me in the back of the throat, came across my wisdom tooth scars that had just gotten removed, and tore up the upper part of my cheek, and then cut my cheek on the way out. It took about 1.5 months for me to heal completely. That's all I'm thinking about.
Though Stephen made a full recovery, some wounds take longer to heal.
Stephen was very close to being killed that day.
Oh my God.
I can tell you that for the first couple of years, I thought about it every day. Every day.
Today, father and son hold no grudge against the marlin. They continue to enjoy fishing trips around the world, though they take a few more precautions, especially around large billfish.
I think we both have a newfound respect for marlin and what they're capable of. Our fishing experience has always been a good bonding time for us, and nothing's really changed, just we're a little bit more cautious when the fish get close.
Around the world, each flying fish species is its own aeronautical specialist with unique and astounding aerial techniques. In Brazil's Amazon River, some predators take flight like surface-to-air missiles. Here, these seemingly common fish called matrinxa are leaping hunters. Zeroing in on their prey, they fire out of the water, hit their target, and head home.
They've specialized on going after prey organisms that are simply hanging out on tree limbs. In this way, by leaping out of the water, they can catch those animals.
But matrinxa aren't the only fish that fly to go after the kill. Deep in another flying fish destination, an angler's ready to take on an epic battle of fisherman versus airborne beast. Puerto Real Bay, Puerto Rico, January 6, 2007. Greg Gibson's a globe-trotting fly fisherman. He's chased everything from northern pike in Manitoba to bonefish in the Bahamas. But here in the Caribbean, Greg has one goal. A catch-and-release angler, Greg wants to land a titanic tarpon on a fly.
The challenge that the tarpon brings not only the initial hookup, which is by far the most exciting, but to get a fish over 100 pounds into the boat with a fly line is, I think, just an achievement.
Greg's fearsome flying adversary? Meet the tarpon. In the choice of fight or flight, these aerial whoppers take flight to new heights. To avoid predator attacks, these acrobats cut through the sky like stealth bombers, landing where their opponents least expect them.
If you have a predator which is in the water, probably the safest place to be is out of the water. So the ability to jump out of the water, to move to some other location that maybe the predator can't see where you're going is a real advantage.
Nicknamed the Silver King for their shimmering scales, tarpon grow massive, over 2 meters long and nearly 140 kilos. And when it comes to flying, tarpon can soar up to 3 meters out of the water. These leaping beasts have an air-breathing advantage. Like the intake on a jet engine, a modified swim bladder draws in outside air, allowing tarpon to keep breathing and hunting in shallow, low-oxygen environments where other fish die.
There's actually a tiny duct that connects the swim bladder to the gut. Now that's a real advantage for the tarpon because what it means is it could also potentially use that swim bladder as sort of a lung and get extra oxygen.
And one thing's certain, for any angler who dares to battle these flying fish in the flesh, hooked tarpon fight back in a leaping, epic fight to the finish.
When he comes out of the water, he's twisting and turning his body in every direction, and he's maybe 5 or 6 feet out of the water. It's an explosion.
Oh my, I got that, dude.
Here in Puerto Real Bay, Greg teams up with local tarpon guide Francisco Pochi Rosario.
Hey, Senor Pochi. How you doing, Greg? Mi amigo. How are you?
So renowned, he's nicknamed the Tarpon Hombre.
Catching a big tarpon on a fly is like a holy grail for the fly fishing angler. What you try to do all your life.
Speeding out, Pochi heads toward a nearby tarpon hangout. As his guide anchors the boat, Greg warms up with a few casts.
Hopefully we can catch a big one, a couple of them.
I'm a lucky fisherman. I guarantee you we're gonna hook some tarpon.
Oh, tarpon right behind the boat, right behind the boat, right behind the boat.
How far?
Big fish.
Suddenly, Pochi spots a group of tarpon.
Right there, man.
He calls out to Greg.
Right side, right there, about 75 feet.
Greg focuses hard.
There we go.
Casts his fly. And misses. Quickly reeling in, Greg repositions and casts again. In a burst, the fish leaps from the water and snatches the fly. It's huge.
When he came out of the water the first time, it's when we realized this is a very, very big fish. Then the anxiety starts kicking in, is can I hold on to this thing?
Oh, yeah, he's strong. Yeah, man.
I saw the fish and I said, Greg, oh Greg, you have a lifetime fish.
Greg widens his stance and braces himself, waiting for the tarpon to take flight once again.
I can't get over how strong he is, man. He's just got me doubled over here.
In a rush, the fish jumps and thrashes, flashing its signature silver scales. Greg knows the battle's just begun.
And then it's just hanging on, because as soon as they take the fly and they realize they're hooked, they start dancing on top of the water, coming out of the water, and trying to do everything in their power to get off.
trying to shake free, the fish jumps again and again. Each leap seems higher than the last, and Greg is struggling just to stay in the fight.
When a tarpon jumps, they call it bowing to the king. You need to bow your body and your line and keep it low to the water so he can't spit the fly out.
The tug-of-war rages for a back-breaking 2 hours. Exhausted, Greg's whole body's sore, but he refuses to quit.
Not a chance. Not a chance.
Then, the fish shows the first sign of fatigue, surfacing for air.
When they come up to the surface, you have a sense of relief that things are getting closer and we might be able to get this fish into the boat here soon.
But it's not over yet. In a back-breaking 2-hour fight to the finish, expert fly angler Greg Gibson struggles to reel a whopper-sized fighting tarpon to his boat. Refusing to give up, the beast dives back down. Greg's amazed by the tarpon's tenacity, but he's just as determined. He gathers his strength and gives a forceful pull. In an instant, the fish appears next to the boat.
Okay, Greg, the fish.
Greg's got it.
Okay, I got him right here.
Okay, got him. Okay,
Leaning down, the angler can't believe his eyes.
The one thing I noticed right away when we got the fish close to the boat was the enormous size of his head and the size of his eyes. It was just incredible. I just was in awe.
Give me the leader.
Time is critical. Greg and fishing guide Pochi Rosario want to measure the fish before releasing the animal alive.
You can just feel the strength of this fish. Even after a 2-hour and 20-minute fight, the fish, just picking him up, he's just nothing but muscle.
Grabbing hold of the beast, with a massive heave, the two anglers manage to land it. At last, the monster tarpon's in the boat. At more than 2 meters long, 1 meter around, and an estimated 100 kilos, the whopper's nearly bigger than both Pochi and Greg.
It was unbelievable. Hold it and take the photo and everything that, take the measure and everything.
We've had a thrill of a lifetime with this fish, and now we want to make sure that we release it alive.
To protect species survival, Puerto Rican regulations stipulate all anglers must release tarpon back where they came from. Greg carefully lowers the fish into the water and holds it while Pochi gets the boat cruising. Running water through the gills delivers reviving oxygen. Finally, with a push, the titanic tarpon swims off. For Greg, it's a fly fishing catch and release of a career.
We saw him swimming down into the deeps of the water, head down, tail up, and there's a sense of accomplishment there.
Across an ocean, when other whoppers take flight, they're like seafaring stunt pilots. Deep in the Pacific, when spinner dolphins rocket into the sky, some speculate their splashdown is designed to shake off pesky parasites called remoras. Unwelcome passengers trying to catch a free ride on a dolphin's back. Yet when it comes to physical finesse, dolphins have some stiff competition. In another flying fish lair, combine aeronautics with aggression, and you have these fearsome and ferocious killers. Apex predators who push their lethal leaps to the frightening limit. The last thing unlucky prey sees before death. The Mako shark.
As Mako sharks leap from the water, they're going to come out sort of almost like a missile. These animals may actually do flips as they're coming out. They may actually roll.
stretching longer than 3 meters, weighing nearly half a ton. Thanks to a combination of brutal weaponry and blazing fast speed, mako sharks reach petrifying proportions. Row upon row of razor-sharp, dagger-like teeth allow makos to bite into big meals. But it's their sleek hydrodynamic shape and powerful propulsion system that lets them catch up to almost any kill.
Mako sharks patrol through the water until they encounter a fish, and then they will just use their burst of speed to attack.
In and out of water, mako bodies are built for the high-speed hunt. Tendons connect masses of oxygen-rich muscle tissue to a sickle-shaped tail fin. Rhythmic contractions work like pistons, generating powerful thrust to catapult makos to high speed and high altitude.
You need all that force, all that thrust, in order to drive the animal through the surface of the water and up to the heights that it can attain.
And their flight plan is terrifying. Makos scout victims swimming above them and kill from underneath. Shooting upwards, clamping onto prey at maximum velocity, they break the surface in stunning and deadly displays.
These animals have been known to leap out of the water as far as 15 to 20 feet above the water surface, which is fairly incredible for any animal.
Fishermen battling these ferocious flying whoppers know, hook a mako and you're in for one of the wildest rides in the ocean.
They're incredible fighters, and they jump. When they run 300 yards out and do a double backflip 15 feet out of the air, and that's what it's all about.
San Diego, California, August 27, 2006. Believed to be a mako shark breeding ground, this bayside nursery is home to juvenile sharks. Anglers flock to catch these small-scale jumpers, but few dare to battle the largest mako on Earth, nicknamed by anglers as a Big Mama. Yet for avid fisherman Brendan Mason and Captain Dave Trimble, it's the ultimate challenge, a mighty mako caught on a fly.
I first came to San Diego to try to fish for mako sharks because I'd heard about the fishery here, and I just wanted to give it a shot.
Steaming out to a prime spot, Dave drops a bait bucket filled with oily fish. Like a deep-sea dinner bell, hungry sharks within hundreds of meters can smell the tempting feast. At first, no luck.
It started out slow, and it seemed like it might be a bust.
Then,
oh, look at the chum slick. Here one comes, man. Right there.
The strategy works. Captain Dave spots a mako cruising in.
We need the biggest frog you got, man.
Brendan gets ready to cast until something goes wrong. The shark suddenly disappears. Baffled, the men scan the water.
Hey, where'd it go? I don't see it.
Wondering what spooked the shark.
Hey, where'd it go?
Oh my gosh, look at that one.
Then they see it, a massive fin just meters from the boat. They can only imagine the size of the beast below. A mako, bigger than any they've ever seen.
Everybody kind of just froze for a second, and we realized what we had to deal with.
All of us on board were just kind of shocked. You know, sitting there with our jaws open.
And even more shocking, the behemoth shark is moving directly towards them. Suddenly, in a blur of jaws and teeth, it bites down, shattering the floating bait bucket.
It was actually creepy to watch because its teeth would come out and its eyes would roll back in its head and it would just crush the bucket and you'd hear plastic snapping.
And it gets scarier. Finished with the bucket, the hunting shark now begins bearing down on the boat.
As its mouth opened up and its lips curled back and its teeth came out and it started to chew on the motor, I was wondering if the motor could take it at that point because of the pressure of the jaws.
In a frenzy, the Mako gnaws repeatedly at the engine. Stuck in shark-infested waters, the men pray the ship will hold, and the shark won't go after bigger prey. Acting quickly, Brendan casts his fly, hoping to lure the biting Mako away from the boat. Success. In a flash, the fish whips its head and chomps down.
You ate it, yes, we got him.
But the hook only agitates the Mako more. As Brendan sets the fly, the whopper shark shoots from the water. The men hold their breath as the Mako flips a full 360 degrees before diving back down.
They don't just jump and fall back in the water. They actually flip, and a lot of times they're going head first back in, right where they came out.
To see a fish that big come completely out of the water, inverted and doing a backflip is something real special. A lot of people don't get to witness something like that.
Now, as the shark pulls the boat, each powerful run ends in a stunning aerial display.
We could see this shark jumping way off in the distance. It made probably 5 or 6 jumps in a row, you know, coming completely out of the water, doing backflips.
For Brendan, still hooked to the charging flying beast, the fight is on. The angler uses all his strength to hold on to the rod, trying to keep up and stay rooted on deck. He prays the tug-of-war will end before his body gives out.
In that type of fight, really, the thing that keeps you going is knowing that you're fighting what could easily be the biggest fish you're ever going to catch in your life. And you just can't quit.
Angler Brendan Mason's in the fight of his life against a massive flying Mako shark. After battling a grueling 40 minutes, as the Mako starts to tire, the fish's leaps grow fewer and far between. Brendan's fishing buddy Dave pushes Brendan to hang on a little longer and reel the beast to the boat. But Brendan's feeling the strain. Using the last of his energy, he gives a powerful yank and gets the shark up close. He's finally face to face with his mammoth Mako. Looking down on the super specimen, the anglers can't believe their eyes. They estimate the Mako's a staggering 3.5 meters long, weighing over 270 kilos, a possible world record fly catch, if they bring the shark to shore. Yet both men are committed to catch and release, and they know the sooner they set the Mako free, the better its chances of survival. To save the shark, the men quickly cut the line, and their chance at a world record. They watch as the mighty beast kicks its tail and swims away.
The feeling as I was cutting the wire is undescribable. It was probably the biggest fish in the world ever caught and released on fly tackle.
The most epic fishing trip I've ever been on.
Right on, man. Yeah, got him, man. Good work, man.
For Brendan, the biggest thrill of the day is knowing his Mako is still swimming and repopulating in the wild.
I practice catch and release almost exclusively. I think it's really important, especially in a place like San Diego where the Mako sharks come to breed. It's like a nursery for sharks, and it's probably also one of the places where they're most susceptible to overfishing.
But a world away, some flying species are the ultimate gravity-defying group, the hatchetfish. In Brazil's Amazon River, when hatchetfish sense an approaching predator, they fling themselves to safety in the air, launching over 3 meters above the surface. For a hatchetfish school, changing location could mean the difference between life and becoming another fish's dinner. Yet a different flying fish works under the motto, one for all. Across a continent, another flying fish haven lures fishermen to battle. And for one team of brothers, going up against a mammoth beast pushes them to the edge of endurance. Fraser River, British Columbia, August 19th, 2007. Brothers Mike and Gino DiDomenico book a weekend fishing trip with Captain Brian McKinley. Their plan is to catch wild salmon, but Captain Brian convinces the men to go for a far more elusive and extraordinary challenge: white sturgeon.
I had seen sturgeon before and I knew how big they got, and I was excited.
White sturgeon are a formidable flying adversary. Flying is in their DNA. Incredibly, these lone fish pilots soar to save their own species. Some believe these leaping leviathans are masters of in-flight communication, conveying life-saving coordinates by taking to the air. Monster sturgeon can stretch longer than a surfboard, over 3 meters, topping the scales at well over half a ton. Killers since the Cretaceous period, 100 million years ago, sturgeon are prehistoric survivors. Healthy sturgeon are born flyers. They're packed with white muscle, tough tissue that works like an afterburner. At peak performance, white muscle allows sturgeon to launch their huge girth clear out of the water, reaching 6 feet.
You can imagine trying to drag in, an 8-foot sturgeon that is sideways, that is flailing. It's going to make for a great fight, a difficult fight. It's just a huge pull on you.
But unlike other flying monsters, bottom-feeding predator-free sturgeon don't leap to corral prey or avoid danger. Instead, one theory suggests they jump to communicate. Some experts believe sturgeon use flying leaps to mark their territory, like GPS tracking, alerting other sturgeon to the location of deep water, prized sturgeon feeding ground. Yet no matter why they jump, one thing's certain: once hooked, sturgeon take off.
Like watching a missile come out of the river, just head first, and then come, straight up, twisting in the air. You can't describe it.
Even for skilled fishermen like the DiDomenicos, flying sturgeon are no easy catch. Now, Captain Brian searches for deep pockets in the river floor where these bottom feeders hunt their favorite prey. The Fraser River was once brimming with giant sturgeon, but overfishing and habitat loss have taken their toll. Today, white sturgeon angling is exclusively catch and release. Finding just the right spot, the men drop anchor. After some baiting tips from Captain Brian,
One hook through the side and out the back, swing it all the way back. And
the two anglers cast into the river.
Yeah, tighten. Perfect.
But in the murky waters, there's zero visibility.
You don't see what's in the water. You're hunting something you don't see.
Suddenly, Gino's rod starts spinning. He's got a bite. Clutching hard, Gino lurches forward, struggling to keep his hold on the pole. The fish is a pulling machine, and it's headed straight for the bottom depths.
The pole kind of feels like you're holding a bus off a skyscraper with a rope.
Gino does his best to hang on.
Yeah, he's got a pretty good one there, man. Yeah.
Then, in a sudden burst, the fish leaps from the water.
That's a big fish.
The brothers are stunned. It's a whopper white sturgeon. And it hits back down in the water with an ear-stinging splash.
Nice, I got it. Got it on video.
We saw the underbelly, which was all white. Kind of looked like when a shark jumps out of the water, and it was shocking.
When it first came out of the water, it was kind of like watching a sea monster. It was massive. It was nothing I've ever seen before.
Gino's blown away by the sturgeon's strength, in and above water. As he grips the rod, the fish makes another leap. Plunging back down, deep like a crushing weight. Exhausted from the strain, Gino's arms are almost numb. Mike sees his brother struggling and rushes to help.
Yeah, take a turn.
You got it?
Yeah.
Mike grabs the pole, taking on the next round.
Half of me was passing it on because he needed to feel the pull.
Yeah, this is bigger than I thought.
And the other half of it was because I was exhausted and I didn't think I could hold on that much longer.
I don't feel like I have anything. I feel like this guy's got me.
Each time the anglers feel their arms about to give out,
My back's hurting.
they pass the rod. After this tag team tug of war, the sturgeon starts to slow down. Gino marshals his strength for the final pull, praying he can reel in the flying beast. Brothers Mike and Gino DiDomenico are deep in a tag team tug of war, battling a whopper flying white sturgeon.
Yeah, this is bigger than I thought.
In a rush, the sturgeon rises to the surface.
Never seen anything so big in my life.
The DiDomenico brothers finally see their supersized opponent face to face.
I mean, my jaw was on the floor and trying to figure out how we're gonna get this thing on the boat.
It takes every last deckhand to heft the hulking beast. At last, with a heave, they've got it.
Oh, that looks like about an 8-footer there, 7-8-footer.
Victorious, the men measure the monster at over 2 meters long and an estimated 90+ kilos.
It was an accomplishment. There was some pride, and it felt good.
Snapping a fast photo, they waste no time releasing the fish back to its lair.
After having pulled it in, I initially called everybody I knew my cell phone just to tell people that I just caught a monster.
Come up. Oh my God. That's a big fish.
But in another flying fish habitat, a soaring creature seems to defy its own species. In Baja, Mexico, stalking the Sea of Cortez, bizarre, flattened beasts sail out of the water, looking more like birds than fish. Known as mobula rays, scientists believe surface swimming helps mobulas corral their prey. Then, to finish the job, they power through the air like flying birds, reaching nearly 2 meters above the surface, landing with predator precision. Like the mobulas, other rays can fly. But only one mammoth beast trumps them all. Majestic and monstrous, for them, the same principles of aerodynamics become hydrodynamics. Unlike any other creature on Earth, these seaborne stalkers literally soar through the ocean. The giant manta ray. And for one team of scientists, wrangling the giant manta barehanded is the ultimate challenge of man versus flying beast. Sea of Cortez, Mexico, November 2nd, 2003. Dr. Robert Rubin is one of the world's leading experts studying giant mantas. He's determined to bring these incredible ocean flyers back from the brink of overfished extinction.
Just as long as it clears the underside of the boat. Right.
Robert and his research associate Gavin Chilcott are prepping an expedition to a remote group of volcanic islands over 500 kilometers southwest of Cabo San Lucas, nicknamed Mexico's Galapagos. It's one of the few spots in the world where researchers can monitor some of the biggest manta rays on the planet. The team travels a full day to reach the islands, but their work's just begun. Robert and Gavin want to uncover data about the rays' behavior and migration. To do it, they've got to make prolonged dives, and attach sound-emitting tracking devices called acoustic tags to the biggest rays they can find.
These are the receivers for the listening stations placed underwater. They'll be anchored to the seafloor, suspended by a float. This portion is the receiver.
To tag these elusive creatures, Robert often has to make as many as 12 attempts in shark-infested waters.
Going into a trip like this, there's a lot of uncertainty as to how well everything's going to work.
Their target, a truly otherworldly beast. At 1.5 tons, giant mantas look like flying saucers out of science fiction.
Mantas are among the largest animals in the sea, and they certainly are the largest ray. They're a little bit bigger than a two-car garage, from wingtip to wingtip.
Gliding through the water, wing-like pectoral fins can stretch more than 6 meters, muscling mantas across miles of ocean. But make no mistake, giant mantas can be as flexible as flying acrobats.
You'd barely imagine until you see them twisting barrel rolls and maneuvering around in tight circumstances. They're actually quite agile.
Though generally considered harmless to humans, for a team of researchers determined to tag them, tangling with these titanic beasts can quickly turn hazardous. Now, preparing to plunge to their whopper target, the team suits up.
All right, are we ready? Let's go.
Diving down, they first attach a sonar receiver to a reef. This listening device will monitor the tag ray's location and activity. With the receiver in place, Robert and Gavin head to where they know mantas hang out, hotspots dubbed the cleaning stations.
The fish rise up out of the reef and move all over the animals, cleaning parasites into their gills, into their mouths.
Working underwater is more than challenging, it's dangerous. Burdened with heavy equipment, Robert and Gavin must navigate strong currents, and they're always on the lookout for hungry hunters.
There's a lot of sharks around all the time when you're working on the mantas. And so it helps to have another person there looking over your shoulder for you.
Robert sets up on a rock plateau and scans the ocean for a monster manta. He spots a large ray approaching. He checks his tagging gun and swims towards the beast.
Maneuvering to get close enough to a ray to deploy a tag is a little bit of a dance, I think, with the animal.
Robert has to get as close as possible, at least 1 to 2 meters directly over the fast-moving fish. Even then, hitting the tagging sweet spot, the middle of the ray's lower back, requires extreme precision. Robert fires and misses. The ray flies away. Robert only has a limited number of tags and air. He quickly resets and waits for another ray. The longer the tagging process takes, the greater the risk of spooking the mantas out of reach. Robert spots a huge ray approaching. This time, he pursues, fires, and hits it.
The scales on the animal are arranged like shingles on a roof. If you place it in the correct spot at the right angle, it's just like putting a very sharp knife into butter.
The tag is in. Looking at his handiwork, Robert's perfectly snagged a 4.5 meter wide giant manta ray. Now, as the flying fish swims through the ocean, it can collect and transmit invaluable species-saving information. Mission accomplished.
90% of what I do is generated from just loving every moment, and they are magical beyond belief. I can't think of anything I'd rather do, day in or day out, ever.
Leaping, soaring, taking to the sky like aerial masters. Whether fighting for survival or hunting their next meal, they're the most extraordinary flyers of our rivers and oceans. And for science and sport, each unforgettable encounter brings us closer to hooked flying monsters.
Oh my God, oh my God.
Lassoing a wounded shark. In life or death emergency surgery at sea.
We've got to get close enough to this animal where we're hugging it.
Diving into India.
Cliff diving into disaster. On an insane mission for giant trevally.
You're going, oh my God, how am I going to stop this thing?
A face-to-face thresher shark showdown. On a surfboard.
When you've got a frenzied shark in the water with you, you've got a problem on your hands.
And a deadly fishing skirmish. Wrestling a mammoth bass bare-handed.
I sank to the bottom. All I saw was green, bubbles, and rocks. I thought I was gonna die.
Forget fishing as usual. It's the world's most outrageous adventure angling. Epic battles of man versus fish pushed to the edge of courage, endurance, and obsession. Uncover the bravest ocean encounters on Earth in Hooked Extreme Angling. On ambitious quests, in remote locations with custom adventure gear, they risk it all in the most terrifying tests of angler versus behemoth beast. In these treacherous clashes of extreme sportsman against ocean predator, some fishermen dare to do the impossible, pushing the limits of experience, luck, and survival to the breaking point.
Nick, we'll need to get those other tanks too.
For one group of scientists on a mission to save a dying deep-sea hunter, it's going to take some of the most extreme and daring fishing they've ever attempted. Byron Bay, Australia, July 16th, 2008.
Long.
Marine biologist and professional sea rescuer Trevor Long gets an urgent call.
When was the last time you saw it?
Kilometers from shore, divers have spotted a 2.9-meter sand tiger shark in dire distress.
Make sure you don't forget that tether line, will you? I'll just get this hoop out.
Incredibly, a 4-foot hooked fishing gaff is stuck deep in the animal's throat.
Don't forget that line, Nick.
Yep.
Trevor quickly assembles a team of top veterinarians, biologists, and animal recovery pros. Though no amount of experience can guarantee their safety, Operation Shark Rescue is on.
Okay, guys, we're out of here.
Heading out aboard the rescue vessel SeaWorld 1, with each second, Trevor and his team are on borrowed time. In parts of the world, sand tiger sharks are critically endangered. Saving any of them is vital. But this shark is in serious trouble.
This animal cannot feed, it can't forage, it can't obtain any prey whatsoever. If we don't remove it, there's only one situation that's going to happen here. This shark's going to die.
The team's target? Meet one of nature's scariest cannibals. Natural-born predators, sand tiger sharks are programmed to attack and devour anything that crosses their path. From infancy, a sand tiger's mission is brutally simple: kill or be killed. In the womb, the first sand tiger egg hatched already carries cutting jaws. Infanticidal and hungry, it turns on its siblings, feeding until no one's left.
So what happens, Mum has a range of animals in the uterus. The fittest of those animals will actually feed on the others and consume them, and only that female will only have 1 or 2 pups at the end of the day.
If you think about it, you're going to have a really aggressive animal that comes out of this really awful process.
And as they grow, sand tigers only get more lethal. Nicknamed the ragged-toothed shark, one look and it's easy to see why. Over 80 stabbing, jutting fangs turn their mouths into predatory pincushions.
Sand tigers, they've got a lot of teeth, a lot of big teeth, and they're really raggedy. They got all these gnarly edges to them.
A relative of the great white, sand tiger sharks grow to whopper sizes. Over 3 meters long, weighing nearly 160 kilos. But they get even more dangerous when these warm water hunters naturally swim close to shore and encounter humans. With 29 unprovoked attacks on record, sand tigers have earned a lethal reputation. Man-eaters. Yet in reality, sand tigers are more often the victim of our commercial overfishing, bycatch, and habitat destruction. Still, though we must help to save the species, be warned, they're dangerous. Like any powerful predator, a threatened sand tiger can turn deadly.
These animals have a mouthful of teeth, and if you get your hand anywhere near them, you're going to get your hand bitten off. These large sharks have really strong jaws, and they can easily slice right through bone.
And now, Trevor Long and the rescue team aboard SeaWorld 1 plan to wrangle an injured tiger shark head-on. Amazingly, to get the shark to the boat, Trevor plans to lasso it. The technique requires a special tool, a custom spring-loaded lasso that propels rope towards the target. Once the trigger's pulled, spring clips release, securing the rope around the beast. But roping a shark safely takes more than special tools. It takes intense training and marksman-like precision. And there's always a risk, getting so close to a killer fish. Now, to save this dying beast, they first gotta find it, more than 4 hours out at sea. The team makes its way to the rocky outcrop where the shark was first spotted. They can only hope the animal's still there and alive. An injured shark's behavior is violently unpredictable. Yet, the team's gotta perform emergency surgery.
Now we're going to go down, pluck this animal out of the ocean, bring it on board, and then somehow get this gaff out of it and release it alive. This isn't an easy exercise.
Arriving at their target location, Trevor prepares his custom shark lasso.
I would go down, hopefully be able to locate the animal, because we didn't know how long it was going to take to fight the animal to get it back to the boat.
The murky water makes visibility a serious challenge. Then, a breakthrough. Trevor spots the shark circling near the rocks and can't believe his eyes. It's enormous, stretching nearly 3 meters long.
When I first saw it, I was quite excited, but I had to ensure that I didn't let my excitement impact on what I had to do, and that was to concentrate on this animal, because you're stalking an animal.
Now, the game has changed. With the shark in sight, Trevor needs to make sure the beast doesn't see him. If the shark spots Trevor or the crew, it might flee, or worse, the shark could turn on the divers, attacking in self-defense. Trevor positions himself above the shark's blind spot. If his shot misses, the spook beast will be lost. Aiming carefully, Trevor focuses, fires, and hits his target. He's got the lasso on. But the danger mounts. At any moment, the shark's sharp teeth could shred the line. Even worse, the animal's now attempting to swim away. If Trevor holds on, the shark could drag him deep into open ocean. Trevor's only hope is to gain more leverage and turn the dying shark back towards the boat. He hovers directly overhead, getting closer and closer.
Any shark in a fight response where it's got a rope around it, it can be dangerous. And we've got to get close enough to this animal where we're hugging it almost.
Up close, Trevor assesses the damage. The 1+ meter fishing gaff is deeply embedded in the shark's throat. A submerged plexiglass tube is used to hold the injured shark still, while the crew hoists the animal onto the boat. Though the tube is sized for a large shark, it's risky. If the contraption fits too tightly, it could push the swallowed fishing gaff even further down the shark's throat. The team slowly maneuvers the tube toward the mammoth monster. To prevent a lethal rupture, Trevor needs to stabilize the thrashing animal immediately. Staying calm as possible, with the shark still struggling, the team manages to get the tube in place, sliding the beast all the way in. But as feared, the gaff moves deeper into the shark's throat. They've got to get the injured predator to the boat, and fast. As everyone holds their breath, a special winch shoulders the precious cargo into a waiting tank on board.
We want a minimal amount of time for that animal to be out of water. So we crane it in the tube. Up on board, we've got a specially designed large fiberglass box full of water.
In the boat at last, speed is critical. The gaff has to come out.
Gonna come right further back, honey.
First, to sedate the shark, the team uses a deceptively simple strategy, flipping the animal over. In this inverted position, a shark falls into a temporary trance called tonic immobility. Scientists are only beginning to understand the phenomenon, but they do know the amount of time the trance lasts is unpredictable.
Sharks will come into a very calm state if you can roll them on the back. Now, we've still got to be very careful. This animal can bite.
With the shark briefly sedated, the team inserts a thick plastic tube down its throat. The tube allows veterinarians to reach down and remove the gaff.
The vet can put his hand down the pipe to make himself safe from all those ragged, sharp teeth.
But even with the pipe in place, the vet's operation requires a steady hand and even steadier nerves. Suddenly, something goes wrong. Mid-procedure, the vet tries to loosen the gaff from outside the protective tubing.
David, get your hand out. That tube came out of the shark's mouth. It's going to, literally tear the skin and deep into that vet's arms. Take it out of there and beside it.
For nearly an hour, the painstaking operation continues as the vet struggles to unhook the gaff and safely remove it.
And the vet's under a lot of strain, a lot of duress. He's sitting in the water. He's extremely uncomfortable, and he's got his hand inside a shark's mouth.
As the crew watches, after a tense 40 minutes, at last, with a careful push, the veterinarian feels the hook release from the shark's throat. Guiding the gaff pole up and out, he's done it.
You know, I asked him, I said, Dave, that was absolutely fantastic. And he said, failure was not an option.
But the mission isn't over yet. For the shark to have any chance of survival, the crew has to get it safely transferred by stretcher back into the water as fast as possible. Before releasing the 3-meter whopper, the team tags it and quickly administers antibiotics to prevent any wound infection. They then move the beast into position at the side of the boat and carefully lower it down. After a few moments, the shark slowly swims away. Divers follow along at a distance to observe and report the patient's condition back to Trevor.
After about 15 minutes, we could see that the animal got its colour back and it was starting to swim in a very normal manner. And so we knew at that time that we've been successful. You know, 1,000,000 chance to even start this thing, and it's all gone exceptionally well, and we're pretty happy with that.
To this day, no one knows how the gaff got lodged in the shark's throat. But regardless of the cost, Trevor and his crew's mission to rescue this remarkable animal is a testament to the importance of human intervention to help save threatened species from extinction. Thousands of kilometers away, another extraordinary angler risks his life for the thrill of battle. The Seychelles Atolls, Indian Ocean, February 5th, 2006. International fishing adventurer and intrepid fly fishing guide Peter McLeod will go anywhere to catch whoppers. Remote locations mean big fish and the most extreme catches.
It's pristine wilderness environment. You get that kind of environment, then the fishing's going to be off the clock.
Peter's come to the Seychelles for one reason: to land one of the area's most notorious undersea adventure angling opponents, the giant trevally.
There's something just primevally aggressive and rather, insane about giant trevally.
In a world of whopper fish, giant trevallies, GTs for short, are like hit-and-run hunters, striking with brutal precision and speed. Their stalking style? Bite first, ask questions later.
When trevally are feeding, they hit hard, they hit fast, prey just flies out of the water.
With few competitors and even fewer natural enemies, GTs can grow big as bathtubs, over 1.5 meters long, weighing more than 70 kilograms. Muscle-bound brutes built with thick shoulders, blunt heads, and heavy torsos, these giants strike at any potential prey.
They can just blitz.
They're built just like torpedoes.
Like a raging bull, when a GT sets its sights on prey, they accelerate with fearsome force.
Trevally just run things down. They don't care if the prey sees them a mile off, they just blast into them.
Despite their bulk, a crescent-shaped caudal fin rockets them through the water with power and agility.
Trevallies have that big curved tail, which helps them accelerate really quickly.
And for adventure anglers like Peter McLeod, it all adds up to one of the toughest fighting fish on the planet.
It's known as the bulldog of the ocean.
Now, as Peter reaches his shoreline fishing spot along the atoll's rugged terrain, the angler scans the waters for shadowy movement. To get a better look, Peter decides to head for higher ground. Climbing rocks in the middle of the Indian Ocean is risky business. Yet for Peter, it's the only way to get a leg up on his adversary.
I climbed up one of these overhanging coral outcrops, probably 12, 15 feet up. It's literally like walking on lunar landscape. I mean, this thing is like really vicious. It's all dead coral reef. So you've got to be very, very careful.
Scanning from the top, the water's clear as glass. The angler spots his target, a giant trevally ahead. It's huge and heading straight towards him.
And there I see Plum sitting there is this massive GT, about 35 pounds. So the heart starts going and I'm beginning to getting really, really excited about it.
Wasting no time, Peter casts his line. In a flash, the voracious trevally swallows the hook and takes off. The mammoth fish peels off line in a rush, showing no sign of stopping.
And it's like being attached to a bus. It's probably the best description. The take is just bang, hits you like a ton of bricks, and then suddenly everything's fizzing out of you and you're going, oh my God, how am I gonna stop this thing?
As more line strips out, Peter's increasingly alarmed. Perched at the top of a jagged cliff, embroiled in a tug of war, he's at high risk.
So if I lacerate the hell out of myself on this coral, I'm in real trouble. We are moored 10 hours sail away from the nearest atoll that we can get a plane into. And from there, it's a 3.5-hour flight.
Peter knows he needs to act, and quickly.
Something's gonna have to give at this point. It's either gonna be me, I'm gonna get pulled over on this coral. It's gonna be my rod, it's gonna smash into about 6 or 7 different pieces. It's gonna be the line, it's gonna get nailed on the coral.
To save the catch, the extreme angler decides he has only one option. Jump.
I'm thinking, I'm gonna have to get down there so I can put some side strain on this fish. I'm gonna have to get from here down to there very, very quickly.
With no idea what's in the water beneath him, Peter grabs hold of his fly rod as tight as he can and leaps off the cliff.
But when I hit that water, it was probably a little higher than I was anticipating, and I probably should have actually counted on the fact that I couldn't really see how deep it was in front of me.
In the water, the fisherman needs to gather his wits and get back to the fight fast. The trevally continues to strip off line from the reel.
It's like spinning like a propeller. Absolutely going mental. This fish is howling out.
And Peter's fighting another risk. The hook could slip free. Committed to catch and release, he only uses hooks with the barbs removed. A growing practice among conservation-minded anglers, barbless hooks come out cleanly for a safe release. But they can also get loose during a fight.
So as soon as you have any form of lack of tension, then the hook will just drop out and the fish is gone.
With this once-in-a-lifetime catch, losing the hook now would be devastating. To maintain as much tension as possible on the line, Peter struggles to get to solid ground.
I managed to get to an area where I could get my feet on a bit of thing, and then I can really start putting some serious pressure on this fish.
The back-and-forth struggle takes every ounce of Peter's strength and wits. At any moment, if he loses focus, he'll lose the catch.
I mean, it's hard work. You're grunting. It's like, ah! Your back's beginning to go, and you're thinking, oh, Christ, this isn't fun anymore.
As he manages to reel the tiring fish almost close enough to touch, Peter reaches out to its tail. With a final pull on his fly rod, at last, Peter brings the monster to him. He's got his prized fish in hand. Up close, it's a trophy GT. At 90 centimeters long, 76 centimeters around, and weighing roughly 18 kilos, it's not the biggest GT Peter's ever caught, but it's one of the most extreme catches he's ever risked. The angler marvels over the phenomenal fish, but only for a moment.
The feeling when you pull that fish out of the water is just sheer elation. I mean, it's insane. But most important thing, we get that fish back in the water very quickly. He's gradually beginning to power away, he's getting his strength back.
With a little help recovering, the fish swims away. Safe
He's off in my hand. I'm going, thank you.
Around the world, when extreme fishermen push the sport to its deadly limit, they take on the ocean's ultimate opponents. And in daredevil battles of angler versus beast, these monster predators are like stealth assassins. The thresher shark.
This is an animal that's built to swim fast. So they will pursue their prey at great speeds and then essentially sneak up, stun them, come back around and consume them.
Thresher sharks can reach mammoth proportions. Record setters have stretched over 7.5 meters, weighing over 340 kilos. And when it comes to the hunt, threshers wield a deadly weapon, their tails. Thresher tail fins stretch over half the length of their bodies.
I think of all the fish in the ocean, threshers clearly have the most unique way of getting prey. They swim right through a school of fish, knocking them around with that upper lobe of their tail fin, and then come around and pick up the injured.
This stunning attack style makes threshers a formidable foe in and out of the water. The same deadly design threshers use to deliver a powerful blow also helps them accelerate rapidly, propelling themselves straight out of the water. Any angler tough enough to tangle with a thresher knows they're in for a fight with some scary surprises. Add a surfboard into the mix, and it's fishing at its most extreme.
When you're fishing from the board, one of the exciting things about it is you're in their element, and that kind of levels the playing field.
La Jolla, California, July 7th, 1998. Extreme angler Scott Cherry sets out for a typical day of fishing. Yet Scott's idea of fishing is anything but typical. With rod, reel, and surfboard, he's on the hunt for sharks. From blue sharks to white tips, Southern California's a known shark lair.
You get into a battle with one of these things, if you don't know what you're doing, you've got your life on the line. You can really get yourself in trouble.
Though dangerous, catches usually stretch only a few meters, weighing just a few dozen kilos. But the surf angler has no idea the behemoth beast he's about to encounter. Paddling out to his favorite fishing spot, Scott casts and sets his line to troll from the back of his board. Suddenly, the angler sees something in the distance. Looking closely, he spots a fin. It's a shark.
I was doing that slow troll with the live bait and dragging that bucket of chum, and I looked off to my left and I saw this beast screaming along the surface for about 50 yards and then dove, and he disappeared, and just a few moments later I hooked up.
Unsure what he's hooked, one thing Scott does know. Whatever it is, it's a monster. It's pulling hard and fast. As Scott struggles to stay in control, his strategy is daring. Hang on and take a wild ride.
You just get this jolt of energy. It's pure adrenaline.
But as Scott fights to stay hooked and stay on the surfboard, he suddenly catches a glimpse of something frightening. A whip-like tail emerging from the surf.
You'll see the dorsal fin, and you'll see lengths behind that, the tip of that thresher tail cutting the water, and you know what you've got.
Scott's now certain this is no ordinary shark. It's a massive thresher, and it's on the other end of Scott's line. He's hooked a raging beast. Scott tries to hang on, pulling back to set the hook, but the thresher drags him across the water like a torpedo.
We just took off. I think at one point we had to be doing 10 knots. I knew this was a big beast.
Yet the thrill soon turns to fear. The thresher is pulling Scott and his board over 8 kilometers out into open ocean. In these shark-infested waters, the thresher's showing no signs of slowing down. Scott must take control before he's dragged out too far to make it back to shore. Yet stopping a fish in its tracks and turning it around from a surfboard requires tremendous strength from muscles already exhausted from battle.
Line was still paying out. So I put my thumb on the spool and put my legs in the water and kicked backwards a little bit and turned her around.
Through sheer determination, Scott's strategy works. With the shark turned around, the angler attempts again to reel in the monster. But the thresher isn't giving in without a fight. For 45 minutes, Scott struggles. And just when he thinks things can't get any more extreme, he gets a better glimpse of his opponent.
This beast jumped and cleared the water completely. And at that point, I knew that I had a big battle on my hands.
Incredibly, the epic combat rages for 3.5 hours. With what's left of his strength, Scott gives a powerful pull. This time, he's got it. The shark comes to the surface, caught. It's truly huge, nearly the length of the surfboard. Scott believes in fishing sustainably for food, but somehow he's got to haul this massive beast miles back to shore. And the catch is about to take a turn for the terrifying. Hefting the shark onto the board, Scott's careful to keep from tipping over. As he begins to paddle back, something brushes against him. It's another shark.
Felt something hit my leg, felt like a bat hitting my leg.
Ow! I looked down, and there was a shark, just absolute frenzy.
Bull sharks, tiger sharks, and gargantuan great whites all call the southern coast of California home. Scott can only guess who's hunting him and his catch. Already tired from an epic fishing struggle, now nearing total exhaustion and fighting fear, Scott paddles furiously, trying to keep the hunting shark at bay. The surf angler never gets a close look at his pursuer, but he can feel its presence.
At that point, I was really moving on that board.
An incredible 3.5 hours after he set out, paddling back through shark-infested waters, Scott makes it to shore, alive, unhurt, with his mammoth catch intact.
We brought it up on the beach and laid it down across my surfboard. It was almost the length of my 12-foot surfboard.
The Whopper measures 3.3 meters long and weighs 63.5 kilos. It's believed to be the largest fish ever caught from a surfboard. An incredible victory for a truly extreme angler.
It's taking everything that you've got. It's taken a lot of time, and it's when you finally catch the thing and you've secured it,
It makes you feel like f***ing Tarzan.
Across a continent, when it comes to extreme encounters of man versus Whopper, nothing levels the playing field like taking the battle deep into the fish's turf. And for one adventure angler, suiting up and swimming out alone, it's the ultimate test of endurance, strength, and nerve. Skishing.
You get that sensation of being on a mission, on the hunt.
Like an angler's triathlon, skishing combines swimming, scuba diving, and fishing. The master of the sport, Paul Melnick. A pro who believes in stacking the odds against himself. Adventure angling pushed to the limit.
People often ask me why I just don't get a boat. Boats are bogus. What's the point of fun or skill in standing in a boat? I really, really enjoy putting myself in positions that are on the edge. I have no intention of dying in a bed.
Paul's most prized opponent, the striped bass. Able to stretch over 180 centimeters long, weighing more than 55 kilos. They're kings of their offshore domain.
So striped bass, like many other members of the fish community, will sit up above a reef and hold station waiting for prey to come along, and then boom, ambush them. Sneak attack.
The thing about striped bass is you get them into the surf and they can really utilize water motion. They put that big slab side against a rip current or against a tide, and you try to pull them in and it's like pulling against a boulder.
For an obsessed skisherman, hooking a speeding striped bass is an intense thrill. But wrestling one barehanded can become a showdown of life and death.
You are on his grounds. He has the same chance of drowning you as you have of killing it. Just that fact makes it extremely thrilling.
Montauk, Long Island, New York, September 15th, 2005. This historic fishing town is a mecca for anglers trying to land big bass. Long Island bass fishing is a traditional sport. Until Paul Melnick enters the game. While other anglers line up along the coast, Paul's in a wetsuit. To catch big offshore bass, Paul swims past the breakers toward a rocky outcrop. Just over 90 meters out, perched on the jagged rocks, Paul likes the vantage point. But experience has taught him, out here, he's got to be extremely careful.
Crashing in the surf and hitting your face on a rock, bad thing. Being grabbed by a riptide, hauled down the beach, off into the distance, bad thing. Fog is a really bad thing. I've gotten caught in the fog. You cramp up because of the exertion of fighting the fish. You can drown, obviously. Drowning is the #1 bad thing.
Casting into the turbulent waters, Paul knows choppy surf is exactly where bass like to hunt.
Bass love to feed at the surf line because the waves are throwing tons and tons of oxygen into the water.
Suddenly, the fisherman feels a tug on the line, then a jolt. Paul reels in fast, keeping constant tension.
I gave it a good tug. Next thing that happens is I'm having the fight of my life with God knows what this was.
There's no time to wonder what he's hooked. A huge swell pushes Paul up off the rocks. The fighting fish takes over, dragging the angler into open water.
At that moment, you know, the fight was on. And I was freaked. It was obviously a big fish because it was dragging me all over the place. Had me on my face, it had me upside down. You know, I was swallowing water, I was spitting seawater.
Far from shore, Paul is repeatedly dragged under, deeper and deeper.
I was in the middle of a current that was moving about 6 knots, and it was moving out to sea. I thought I was gonna die.
Forcing himself not to panic, refusing to lose the catch, Paul leans back and tries to use his opponent's powerful pull to his advantage.
I figured out that if you sit in a semi-prone position and kicked, you could fight back on the fish.
Instinct and experience tell Paul he's battling a whopper striped bass. No matter how fast he reels, the fish won't quit. Every time the angler thinks he's got it beat, the fish takes off again for deeper water.
Striped bass are a very strong animal. The fact that they pull you all over the ocean is testimony to that. It fought like a trooper, like a linebacker.
But Paul's just as determined. Treading water, kicking forcefully as he can, he begins to inch the fish closer and closer towards him. Now, with the beast in range, Paul pounces. Using maximum force to stay upright in the powerful current, he swim wrestles the fish. Paul's got the fish in his arms. He's face to face with his whopper striped bass. But the battle isn't over yet. Though his body's aching, Paul's still far from shore. Entering survival mode, he channels all his remaining strength, focusing on kicking and getting back to dry land. With his catch trailing behind him, the adventure angler finally makes it to shore. Success. The whopper bass stretches over 120 centimeters, weighing nearly 22 kilos. A true test of skill, and a triumph Paul Melnick will never forget.
It's like a special forces mission that you've successfully achieved. It's that pure, macho, I did it. This is a unique experience, and I did it.
In the opposite hemisphere, another passionate sportsman pushes fishing to the limit. In the world of outrageous adventure angling, extreme weather can be dangerous or an extreme advantage. Braving conditions others won't dare, some obsessed fishermen catch a big wind to land even bigger fish. Kite fishing.
The boats might be land-based for 2 months in the winter, I've seen it, and I'm out there kite fishing, getting the big snappers.
Taranaki, New Zealand, September 22nd, 2006. Winter on the coast is brutally cold. High winds make the volcanic black sand beaches even more inhospitable. The local catch? Snapper, a fish known to lurk over 3 kilometers offshore. Not the best conditions for your average shorecaster. But Jeff Preston is anything but average.
A lot of my mates think I'm mad doing it because it's bloody cold in the winter.
This cold, windy day is no different. As Jeff sets up on the beach, he knows exactly where the snappers go to hunt. Of the over 100 species of snapper worldwide, the razor-toothed specimens who frequent these waters can live as long as 60 years, stretch almost a meter, and weigh over 18 kilos. Skittish and streamlined, these snapper always put up a fight. But to take this prized food fish on, Jeff Preston doesn't own a boat. He also doesn't use a fishing pole. His method? Casting his line by kite flying.
Kite enables me to get my line out way past the dirty water, which usually the big fish won't come near the mile, or even up to 2 miles.
The goal of kite fishing is to drag bait along the ocean floor, making it look like fast-swimming fish, enticing larger fish to pounce. To kite fish, a fisherman attaches multiple baited hooks to a kite line, uses a weight for ballast, and waits for a strong wind to carry the kite fishing contraption out to sea. Jeff is experienced, but any kite fishing expedition can easily go wrong. A typical kite fishing line carries 20 hooks hundreds of meters out to sea. But even with 20 chances to get a bite, in kite fishing, the odds are as brutal as the weather.
Some days you've got howling winds and every day's different. There's never many days where it's actually perfect.
The fisherman tries to get the kite up repeatedly, but difficult wind currents are making it almost impossible. After several attempts, the kite catches a strong gust.
She goes.
Jeff's now confident. The game is on.
Get out!
But kite fishing takes patience. With his line drifting out to sea, Jeff bides his time for several hours. All of a sudden, there's a strong tug. Something's hooked, and it's powerful.
It was heavy from the first initial pulling. It was a good mile offshore.
Jeff starts hoisting the line, first pulling it out of the water, and then cranking fast as he can. Time is critical. Jeff knows he's got to get his catch to the beach quickly. With each passing second, the fish could escape or be devoured by sharks. Then he sees it.
Oh, he's a good size! He's a good size!
Even at a distance, the kite fisherman is amazed. This beast is big.
Yes, we've got a nice snapper!
Jeff's more determined than ever to land it. But with kite fishing, tension has to be just right. Patience is key.
Because I have had them get off through being too impatient. Because if they lip hook, they can rip in the waves as the back pressure of the wave goes out.
The angler pulls for a staggering 2 hours. Trying to reel in his monster catch from notoriously shark-infested waters, the kite fisherman yanks as hard as he can. To make matters worse, Jeff suddenly feels extra weight on the line. As he pulls it up, it's covered with lemon sharks hungry for a feast. The angler takes decisive action. In an effort to shake the sharks, with a challenging full-body hoist, he gets his monster catch closer to shallow water. The strategy works, but now, worried his line will break, Jeff heads straight into the crashing surf. Everything depends on the next few seconds. He's got to wrangle the fish carefully. Thrashing in the white water, many fish spit the hook and speed off.
And I just run in, close and all, because it doesn't matter, because we've got to try and get the hand through the gills in case they're just lightly hooked. That's when they can escape with the power of the waves, their last effort to get away.
Reaching down for the writhing whopper, Jeff's skill pays off. Kite fishing mission accomplished. Stunned by the size of the fish, Jeff's certain it's a record. It's the heaviest snapper he's ever held.
I was the only one around, and I was yahooing to myself. When I went to lift the bin off the beach onto the bite, that's when I realised the weight of it.
Measured on shore, it's official. Over 15.5 kilos, 91 centimeters. One of the biggest snappers ever caught off the Taranaki coast. An incredible battle of man versus beast. Won by kite.
Word got around I'd caught a really big one. I think about 10 people saw it within the hour.
For food fishermen like Jeff, such whopper catches offer proof of the sea's bounty in places where conditions are too extreme for anything but sustainable angling. As fish populations dwindle around the world from commercial overfishing, extreme angling may offer a clue to recovery and future species survival.
Innovative approaches that extract the animal that you want without taking the other things from the environment is definitely the wave of the future.
In the untamed oceans, in insane conditions, these brave anglers defy the odds, taking on the most daring challenges and colossal combat. As they face off against these astounding underworld creatures, we marvel at the most death-defying encounters of man versus amazing monster fish in Hooked: Extreme Angling.